fiance, right?
I had a fiance. I had a tour bus waiting for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's because of you hear, hearing you speak makes me realize how dumb I am. You know what I mean? Like I'm your age, and I realize I've had education. I got a chance to, do some college. I did high school and all that stuff. And I realized the schooling that you got in life, is amazing. The amount of books that you've read and the knowledge that you've gotten off of that. And then also to hear how you found love. And will you tell
Can
us?
I hear that
Tell us
story?
about about your fiance.
This is Shannon's favorite part of the movie.
No, I'll be honest. I haven't seen the movie. So
No, I
what
mean-
I'm learning,
no,
I
I
know,
mean what
I know,
will be
You're
I
not
know.
missing
But
anything.
what'd you say?
You're not missing anything.
Okay.
So, Michelle was my first girlfriend ever. And me and Kathy were just talking about this when I came in.
Before you went to prison?
Who is Kathy, by the way? Just
Kathy's a dear friend of ours.
Just so a good friend. Okay.
She's a dear friend of ours. I got to move to the suburbs for 1 year.
Okay.
I was 12 years old. I met Michelle when I was 12. And when I got out, not a lot of my stuff survived, but I still had the yearbook that was signed by her and all her friends. And
what
quite
school was this
interesting
at?
if you read it. It was Richards in Fraser,
Okay.
a middle school. in
All right.
And you
Fraser.
didn't talk to her the entire time you were in prison?
Oh, no. I always, she was the one person that I tried to always keep in touch with.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
pretty much every year I made sure I sent a birthday card and I would, even though you weren't supposed to, I would three-way phone call her and say, hey, how are you, or whatever. And her life went on. I was gone 32 years.
Sure.
So, but 5 years ago, when I didn't think I was going to be sent to Florida, we kind of rekindled that. And ever since then, we've been back together.
That is so awesome. And it's and it's the girl in the yearbook.
Yeah.
What'd she write to you in the yearbook?
There was a lot of things written in there, Mojo. I think I was like class flirt and a bunch of things.
Really?
We read it together, and she was like, "You're kind of like a little pervert."
Did she went on and lived her life? Did she get married or do anything like that? Have kids or do anything?
No kids, but
Got married.
She got married, and it didn't work out.
So Rick,
Did it not work out because you were getting out?
No, I didn't.
Come
I'm not
on.
a home wrecker. That was
Okay.
done before I got out.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
By the way, if I have to compete against a guy that's in prison, you know what I mean? Like, you imagine?
Listen, I want to say one thing.
Yeah.
I did 32 years, 7 months in prison, but I realized that I was very blessed because God sends us all on different paths. And that was the journey that he sent me on, Mojo. Your journey was to end up where all you guys are now with a successful radio show. My journey was, to go to prison. But people aren't as fortunate as me when they come out to have this Jeff as a friend, Kathy as a friend. They don't have Michelle waiting to pick you up in a 40-foot Prevost. You know what I mean? So I had friends that truly believed in me and believed in my story, and Eric and Keith, and they put up the money to make my own documentary, to tell my own story, tentatively titled The Long Road Home. And the one thing, like everybody that I run into at the Kirk Gibson Foundation the other day, the golf outing, people apologize for what was done to me. And society didn't do anything to me. Corruption was what happened to me. And corruption, as we see on TV today, still exists. Mm-hmm. And it'll exist when we're long gone because the next person thinks they won't get caught or they're smarter than the last person that did get caught. But I say that to say, like, I try and do something good. I started doing food drives from prison, oh God, probably 10 years ago. And Andrea Isom was the first person to try and interview me. And I remember the MDOC wouldn't let her. And when I finally got to talk to her, she said, I bet you if it was something negative, they would let me talk to you. Mm-hmm. But I always try, and still to this day, I do those food drives. And people said, oh, he's doing that because he's in prison, or he's doing this, or he's doing that. I know I was blessed. I lost the best years of my life. I lost watching my kids grow up. I watched, over the phone. I didn't watch, but I listened to my dad suffer horribly from cancer. And I can't go back in time, but I know that I'm blessed in a way that I can do good things from here on. And that's what my life's all about. You know, I was invited to a few different golf outings, but my grandfather had Parkinson's disease. So when I was invited to the Kirk Gibson golf outing, and Gibby's one of my favorite baseball players of all time, and, you know, I jumped at the chance, and I'm catching up and I'm doing well in life. So when I can, me as a person, I put my money where my mouth is, and that's how I ended up with the Cheap Trick guitar. And
you told us before we went on the air that you went to that Gibby outing, and they had a Cheap Trick guitar up for auction, and you ended up winning that auction.
Yeah, I kind of talked a little shit because people wouldn't step up and pay. So.
I do that at auctions all the time. Like, come on, people, it's so cheap. And now I
kind of threw out there
buy
like
it.
I did 33 years, and you're going to let me outbid you? Needless to say, I have that guitar at home.
Your lesson is,
but it's for a great cause, and I'll be at the Gibson golf outing every year. Your
lesson that you're teaching us and teaching the listener is an amazing lesson, because we all, wallow in self-pity, especially this past year and a half of the world being turned upside down. And to hear you say that is wonderful. You know what I mean? It's just wonderful to hear the positives of this. It's sad to hear that the corruption and potentially is happening to somebody else. Somebody out there is probably right now dealing with this corruption and is, and that's a shame that happens.
Is it all behind you, or are there still people you have to watch your back and kind of worry about?
I'm loved everywhere I go. I didn't realize that the welcome that I would get or the love that I would get would be as tremendous as it is. Like,
because some of the people you helped to convict and put in prison, they didn't even serve close to the amount of time that you served.
The only people I truly helped put in prison were corrupt cops. And the last one, George Bush let out. So it all the other things that they claim that I helped, like the Curry organization, two of their main people in their organization were informing on the organization. So people blame me for a lot of things that I didn't do, but I really don't. I have the attitude where I really don't care what people blame me for. I know what I did. I know who I am. So all I care about is what I do going forward.
What's the story on the guy 5 years ago, the Detroit hitman that came out and said that he was commissioned to murder you? Did you ever get to talk to him or hear his story?
I sat down with him in that Prevost tour bus and we talked. So we're on camera together.
Wow.
Listen, Nate killed 30 people. They let him out in 17 years. We have people doing 30 years for nonviolent drug crimes. Mm-hmm. So there's a saying on our Supreme Court. It says equal justice under law, which me and Kathy were just talking about. And that means if we're both charged with the same crime, we should be treated equally. Mm-hmm. Well, that doesn't happen in our country.
No.
Right.
There's huge sentencing disparities. Mm-hmm. And one of the disparities could be the community in which you grow up. Like, where there's poverty, there's crime. And the higher poverty rate, the higher the crime rate. So, of course, about 50% of our prison is from Wayne County. It's because there's nothing there. Mm-hmm. The factories are going away. I go down there all the time. I just did an interview down there. The video store that I had, it's still standing. One side of the street is beautiful. The other side of the street looks like you're up north. I think there was one house on the block. Like, it's sad.
Locking those people away doesn't stop crime. It just
you tell me.
Sweeps it under the rug.
You see the crime that we have in our community today. So we spend $2 billion a year on our prison industry in Michigan. Do we live in a crime-free society? Hell no.
In which prison system, which is for profit.
Absolutely. They're there to make money. They make money off of an email. They make money off of a phone call. Their goal is to listen, I sent a buddy of mine last night a package in prison, a food package. Their goal is, while you're there, to make as much money as they can off of you. Mm-hmm. But while you're there, they're raping the taxpayers. Because trust me, they don't spend $55,000 a year on an inmate. You could send a kid to Harvard for $55,000 a year. instead of sending them to Michigan State Penitentiary. But it's all taxpayer dollars, and it's all controlled by the unions. I believe we have 1,200 people today still in Michigan prisons for marijuana crimes, for cannabis crimes, when the state legalized cannabis. But it wasn't told directly to me, but I was told that the union told somebody, you can't let 1,200 people out of prison at one time.
It costs them too much money.
Absolutely. You'll close down a prison and a half. Right. So where would we employ these guards?
Yeah.
So even though those people shouldn't be in prison, because we're having jobs that are supported by them being in prison,
right,
we're not letting them out. So that's not the way our system's set up.
So, Rick, I want to ask you, because I know we've been taking so much of your time, and I appreciate you doing this, but you got the documentary, okay? So the documentary's coming. That has nothing to do, right, with the Eminem 50 Cent thing that's going to be?
No, that's when I came home, as I said, that was a shirt that I wore, Free Big Meech, the day I walked out of prison. Before there ever was a BMF series, I was an advocate for Meech because he was a first-time nonviolent drug offender that got a 30-year sentence. Like, true drug kingpins don't get 30 years. And recently they gave him 3 years off. I think it's BS. 3 years off of 30 years is it's something, but it's not justice. His brother was released. His brother and him committed the same exact crime. And, you know, people don't understand, Mojo, that when you lock a person up, their whole family suffers.
Yeah.
Like, Meech's son is out here, and thank God, you know, he's got 50 Cent that made him the lead actor in this role, and he's making a living, and they're keeping him out of the street life. But he still deserves to have a father.
Yeah. I mean, do you believe the pain and the suffering that your parents had to endure cost them their lives?
Yes. Yes.
That's got to be tough for you to have on you.
I mean, it's a weight.
Yeah. I'm sorry, man. I'm so sorry. I'm so happy that I get a chance to meet you. I really am. I got to ask you one last question. I can't believe I'm saving this for last, but we moved off of the jail thing. Whenever Jeff and I get together, all we talk about is the food that we just ate. Was there anything good about food in prison, or is it horseshit?
Horseshit.
Okay.
It goes back to the $55,000 a year.
Yeah,
I've
they
seen,
give you shit.
I've seen food with maggots in it. So
what,
you tell me they're spending 50. You can live damn good out here on $55,000 a year, and you can eat pretty well. So you tell me that they're spending $55,000 a year to feed people, and there's maggots in the food. And you can look that up in the newspaper. It's not an exaggeration.
Are the guards and the wardens and stuff eating that same food, or do they get better food?
Hell no, they don't eat that food.
Yeah.
Listen, I lived in there, and I ate once a week in the kitchen. Chicken day. Once a week they'll have a leg and a thigh, and that was the day that I went to the kitchen. Where the rest of the time, if I went, I would give my tray to someone. Listen, if you're not fortunate and you don't have money, you'll eat whatever's put in front of you.
Yeah.
Some of those guys that, as sad as it is to say, some of those guys were forced to eat that maggot-infested food. I was fortunate in that sense that I didn't have to.
What's the best thing that you've eaten since you've been out?
Anything at Bella Piatti.
That's it. That has to be, right? That's family.
Absolutely. He's not only family, but the food's outstanding. I'm sure you've been there.
I have.
So
it's good.
It's if you can get in, I suggest everybody to try it.
So about 12 years ago, I got to play Clint Eastwood's nephew in a movie, and we've never stopped talking about it. Do you think you can get Mojo in this documentary? When you do the long road home, can he be guard? He could be a warden or something. Like, he needs a role.
Bus driver. The bus driver. I want to be the bus driver, like in Con Air, that gets killed. Like I want that to happen.
I actually had the coolest bus driver in the world bring me home, Big Mike from Louisiana. So shout out to Big Mike. He's been on tour with Michael Jackson, Prince, the Dave Matthews Band. Actually, we pulled up at Bella Piatti in the Prevost, and he's like, "Man, I've been here." I'm like, You've been here.
They
He's
were
from
staying
Louisiana.
Were they staying at the
At the
hotel?
Townsend.
Townsend.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So he stayed at the Townsend, and he walked right across the street, and he was like,
Why do I think
That's great.
was Big Mike? Did he work? I feel like that name. Maybe there's a
Sounds
lot of Big
familiar.
Mikes.
He was a bus driver for all the big bands
Yeah.
forever.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, listen, I sat in the front of that Prevost, and I'm supposed to be filming, and I'm like, tell me some stories.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I'm looking out the window, and he's telling me stories, and they're like, Rick, can you come back here?
Rick, what do you do for work now? Besides,
I work with a company called Team Wellness. It's a great organization out of Detroit. It's mental health, drug rehabilitation, prison reform, fully accredited healthcare facility. So Tony Policella, who is a dear friend of mine, 30 days after I was home, believed in me and gave me an opportunity to work with them as a consultant. I work with a law firm out of Chicago as a consultant, Hale and Monaco, Andy Hale, dear friend of mine, an attorney that gave me that opportunity. And I have my brand coming out the 8th.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Exclusive.
So
We found out.
Rick, thank you for being here with us. We appreciate you so much for that. When is the wedding? Do we have a date set?
we do not have a date. We're happy.
Re-
We don't need a piece of paper from the government.
Reception at Bella Piatti. That's what we know. Right?
That would be kind of small.
I
but
know.
we might if we could block off Townsend, that'd be pretty cool.
Thank you for giving us the the time. I would think that after spending as much time as you have wrongfully in prison, that your time is so much more valuable than anybody else's time right now. So you giving us this opportunity
Thank you.
is very appreciated.
I appreciate you guys having me, and I look at things a little different than all of you. Like, I take things that normal people take for granted. I see the beauty in.
Well, the power's out in my house, and I'm pissed. But now I'm not as pissed since you basically were telling me the lessons that you've learned about looking at the fact that there's always somebody out there that has it worse.
Every day.
Appreciate you. Give it up for this guy. Thank you for being here with us.
Thanks, guys.